People assume you're fine because you look fine. You show up, you smile, you handle things, you're the one who checks in on others, keeps the peace, and rarely asks for help. But what they don't see is how much you've been carrying alone. As an INFJ, you've learned to hide your pain so well that even you forget it's there until it hits you in the quiet moments. You pretend you're okay, not because it's easy, but because opening up often leads to feeling misunderstood, brushed off, or even guilty for speaking your truth. So instead, you stay silent. You become the helper, the listener, the one who's got it all together, while inside you're barely holding on. This video is for you, the one who's always been strong for everyone else, even when you're breaking. Let's talk about why you do this and why you're not as alone in it as you think. You didn't decide to hide your emotions. Life taught you to. From a young age, you noticed how uncomfortable people got when you were honest about your feelings. Maybe it was a sigh, a subtle change in tone, or being told to toughen up or stop overreacting. So little by little, you adapted. You smiled when you felt hurt. You said, "I'm fine," when your heart was breaking. And people liked that version of you. They praised you for being calm, composed, and mature. But what they were really praising was your silence. The less you expressed, the easier you became to be around. And before long, that became your identity. The strong one, the peaceful one, the one who never asks for anything. But the truth is, you needed a safe space too. You needed someone who could hold your emotions without flinching. And when you didn't find it, you learned to hold everything in, even when it started to quietly hurt you. You don't just notice other people's emotions, you feel them. If someone near you is upset, it's like their pain becomes yours. A tense room, your chest tightens. A fake smile, you feel the sadness behind it. That's the INFJ in you, wired for emotional depth, deeply intuitive, and almost painfully empathic. But that gift comes with a cost. Because while you're busy absorbing everyone else's energy, you often forget your own. You step into the role of the listener, the fixer, the peacekeeper. You know what to say, how to soothe, how to make things feel better for others. But when it comes to your own pain, it's like there's no space for it. You push it aside thinking you'll deal with it later, but later rarely comes. And over time, all those unspoken needs, all that quiet exhaustion builds up inside you. You give so much to everyone else that you start to disappear in the process, and no one even realizes it's happening. You've tried opening up before, just a few times, maybe with someone you trusted, someone you hoped would understand. You shared a small part of what you were really feeling, but instead of comfort, you got dismissed. Maybe they changed the subject. Maybe they offered a quick, surface-level fix. Or maybe they just didn't seem to get it at all. And that moment when you were vulnerable and it didn't land stuck with you. It hurt more than the pain you were already carrying. So now, instead of risking that again, you stay quiet, you nod, you smile, you keep the peace. Even when your mind is overwhelmed, even when your heart is screaming for someone to notice, you bottle it up. Not because you don't want to be understood, but because being misunderstood feels worse. You've learned that silence, as lonely as it is, feels safer. It's the cost you pay to protect the parts of you that no one else has handled gently. You're the kind of person who checks yourself before every word. You think, will this make them uncomfortable, or maybe I'm overreacting? You've always been hyper aware of your emotional impact on others, and the last thing you ever want is to be a burden. So when something's wrong, your first instinct is to minimize it. You tell yourself, other people have it worse, or I'll figure it out on my own. You become skilled at shrinking your pain, packaging it up neatly so no one else has to carry it. And the more you do this, the more natural it becomes. You prioritize everyone else's needs, make room for their emotions, and leave yours for later, if ever. But inside, it builds. That unspoken heaviness, that quiet ache you push aside every day. You've convinced yourself that hiding it is strength, but really, it's just loneliness in disguise. You're not too much. You never were. But somewhere along the way, you started believing you had to be less. You've built a reputation for being composed, someone who always seems to have it together. And most of the time, you do. You show up, stay calm, keep it all running smoothly. Whether it's work, family, or friends, you hold the space others need. But what no one sees is what happens when you're finally alone. When the noise fades, the door shuts, and you're left with the weight you've been carrying all day. That's when it hits you. Maybe it's quiet tears. Maybe it's numbness. Maybe it's lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, too exhausted to explain why you feel so empty. But it always happens in private, because falling apart in front of others doesn't feel like an option. You're the strong one, the steady one, the listener. So you save your breaking point for the moments no one else witnesses. And while they think you're fine, you're quietly holding yourself together, wondering how long you can keep doing this alone. When things get heavy, really heavy, you disappear. Not because you're being rude or dramatic, and not because you want attention. You disappear because it feels safer than trying to explain something that's already too hard to put into words. You stop replying. You cancel plans. You let conversations go unanswered. And people might take it personally, but they don't see what's happening underneath. The truth is, you've tried explaining yourself before, and it didn't go well. You were met with confusion, discomfort, or surface-level responses that made you feel even more alone. So now, instead of putting yourself through that again, you withdraw. You go silent. You retreat into your own space, not to push people away, but to protect your energy. Silence isn't cold to you, it's familiar. It's the one place where you don't have to perform or explain. And sometimes that's the only kind of safety you have, when the world just feels like too much. Even with all the pretending, there's still a quiet hope inside you, this small part of you that wishes someone would see past the smile, that someone would pause, look you in the eyes, and ask, "Are you really okay?" and actually mean it. You don't need fixing. You don't even need advice. You just want to feel noticed, like someone truly sees you, not just the version you present to the world. You long for someone to hear the silence between your words, to recognize the weight you're carrying without you having to explain it. But most of the time, no one does. They take your calm at face value, your politeness as proof that everything's fine. And that, more than the exhaustion, more than the emotional load, is what hurts the most. It confirms the fear that maybe no one really gets you. And even if you've learned to live with that, it still leaves you feeling deeply alone in a world full of people. If any part of this felt like your story, you're not alone. So many INFJs carry the same weight in silence, pretending they're okay while quietly falling apart. But you deserve to be seen, heard, and understood, without having to explain yourself. If this gave you even a little bit of clarity or comfort, consider subscribing. We're building a space here where deep feelers like you don't have to hide anymore. Come back anytime. You belong here.